Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lunch with Lisa. I'm Lisa Warner. I am the author of The Simplicity of Self Healing. I teach my clients how to create well being for themselves. I teach them how to connect to the wisdom of their soul for ultimate well being. Today, I wanted to talk about the shift of consciousness. The veil is lifting. We are shedding the veil of forgetfulness. As humans on this planet, we have forgotten who we are. We are infinite beings. We are not these physical bodies. That's not who we are. We are the consciousness in the body. We are beings of pure consciousness. But when we come here to this physical planet and we step into these physical bodies, we forget. We begin to identify ourselves as the body. And the body, even though it is built to last, the body is vulnerable. We fall down, we hurt ourselves, we break bones, we get hurt. We identify our bodies with pain, and we identify our bodies as limitations. We're unlimited beings, but we forget that. Hey, Michelle, thanks for joining. Woohoo! Headless horsewoman. That was super cool. Anyway, so as humans, we have forgotten who we are. And right now, in amidst of all of this chaos on the planet, what's actually happening is we are going through a massive awakening. We're going through a massive shift of consciousness. And what that means is that we are starting to remember who we are. As we awaken, we start to raise our frequency. On this planet, we have a huge range of frequencies available to choose from. Everything from the lowest frequencies of shame and guilt and fear, all the way to the highest frequencies of unconditional love and bliss and joy. Everything in between is available for us to experience. Everything that happens in our lives is a physical manifestation of some of these frequencies. And in this plan, these frequencies are divided into dimensions. Hey, other Michelle. Hey, popping on. So these frequencies are divided into dimensions. So we can see, because in each frequency bandwidth, we have access to certain emotions. And these emotions create different types of physical experiences. These low frequency bandwidths have been referred to as the third dimension. Third dimension is fear, doubt, guilt, shame, blame, disease, poverty, war, crime, punishment. All of these things exist in these lower frequency bandwidths. And when we live in those lower frequency bandwidths, it's like living in a fish tank. Like that's all there is. Like we don't really see anything else. We've never known a planet without war. We've never known a planet without poverty. We've never known a planet of absolute total freedom and joy. That's that. And hey, Brenda, that is that third dimensional frequency. And when our consciousness is inside that third dimensional frequency, that's where dis-ease is created. Because we are high vibrational beings, we are infinite beings. We are literally made of the highest frequency in all of creation. That's who we are. We are unconditional love. We are source in these bodies. But when we place our attention in that third dimensional bandwidth, we place our attention on what's wrong with me. I don't fit in. I'm not good enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not pretty enough. And we start looking at all of the things that we are not, or all of the things that we wish we were. And we start living in that third dimensional bandwidth, it's pretty much hell, right? We have our own internal hells, we have our own internal battles, and those internal battles turn into external battles as well. They turn into the battles of disease and poverty and trying to fight for our rights and all different kinds of battles. They turn into global things like global wars and global disturbances. So what is happening right now is we are in the midst of raising our frequency in from that third dimensional, that lower frequency bandwidth. We're raising up through the fourth dimensional bandwidth of kind of neutrality, where everything is just kind of okay. It's good. It's not great. It's not bad. It's good. And we have choice. We can look and we can see that we can choose the higher frequency, and we can also fall back down into that lower frequency, because this lower third dimensional frequency, it's really magnetic. It's extremely magnetic. We live in an electromagnetic atmosphere, and everything, all of our cells, all of the molecules that make up everything on the planet are held together with electromagnetics. That's how this hologram is shaped. And this in science, quantum physics shows that this is a hologram, that this is basically a giant virtual reality game. And our reality is dependent upon our vibration, our emotional state of being. So when we are vibrating low and we are vibrating in I'm not okay, the world around us is not okay, because we are each creating our own reality. We are each individual, divine, sovereign beings who have come here to explore, to play a game. And when we come here and explore and play as individual sovereign beings, we also get connected into the human collective consciousness. So our personal consciousness creates our personal reality, and the collective consciousness creates the collective reality. And what's happening now is that each individual is starting to wake up. We are starting to raise our frequency, and we are starting to remember who we are. The amnesia is going away. We are starting to realize that we are not these physical bodies, that we are the infinite being in the physical body. We are the pure consciousness that is driving the body vehicle. And it is our consciousness that is generating our reality. And when our consciousness has been in that low frequency bandwidth of shame, blame, guilt, fear, doubt, dis-ease is created. And that dis-ease shows up in many, many different ways in our lives, including in our physical body as disease. But as we raise our frequency, as we start to shed the veil of forgetfulness, we start to remember who we are, we start to realize that we are pure consciousness. We are source consciousness. And there is nothing wrong with source, ever. We can have the experience of lack and limitation and disease and oh, I'm not good enough and I'm not smart enough and I can't do this and everything is falling apart and this is not good. We can have those experiences. But we can also have grand, magnificent adventures in well-being. And this is what is happening on our planet right now. Even though it looks like chaos, it looks like things are falling apart, and they are. And that's the good news. All of the old structures that have been keeping us locked down in our own limitations, all of those old structures that have been broadcasting fear and you're not okay and the world is bad and it's scary out here and we need to fight, and all of these things that have been keeping us in these low vibrational frequencies, all of that stuff is starting to be exposed. All of those systems, the systems of all of the systems that are corrupt, like the corrupt database, government, politics, the banking systems, the healthcare system, all of these ginormous systems that have been run by the few very, very wealthy people that have been kind of manipulating the populace, kind of running the herd wherever they want. All of that is being exposed. We're starting to see that all of the limitations that we thought we had, we can overcome those. We don't need those. We don't need people to rule over us. When we're divine sovereign beings operating from a platform of love and kindness and unity and well-being, we naturally help each other. We naturally work together. We naturally add to the collective. We naturally serve others because it feels good. Like, doesn't it feel good when you go out to the grocery store and you hold the door open for somebody? It's like, isn't that nice just to open the door for somebody who has carrying a bunch of stuff? And they say, oh, wow, thank you. It's like, yeah, you're welcome. It just feels good, right? And it feels good to have the door opened for you. It's like, oh, wow, they treated me with kindness and respect. Well, that's who we are as normal, natural humans, as the divine beings we are. We love to help each other. We love to feel good. And we love to have others feel good too, because it feels great when there's a whole bunch of us together feeling good. So this is what's happening on our planet right now. We're starting to recognize that we are not these physical bodies. We are source consciousness. And there's nothing wrong with us. And there's never, ever been anything wrong with us. And we start to recognize that when we start to go within and we start to look inside ourselves, that's where the well-being is. That's where source exists. That's where everything else comes from, is inside. When we're torn up on the inside and we're trying to fit in and we're trying to do the right thing and we're doing all of the shoulds and have tos and you must and don't ever do that, and when we're trying to figure out all of these man-made rules, it's really disconcerting and we suffer inside. But now the frequency of the planet is raising. We are raising up out of these low vibrational frequencies. We are starting to raise up out of our human consciousness and move it up into our divine consciousness. We're starting to realize that we had forgotten our divinity. We had forgotten that we are grand and glorious well-beings. We have forgotten our sovereignty, our dignity, our honor. That third dimension, that steals our dignity. It steals our honor. How many of us have been walking around feeling amazing and feeling like we can stand in our own dignity? Or how many times have we kind of groveled around going, oh my God, I screwed up. I should have done it different. Oh no, I made somebody else feel bad. Oh, they made me feel bad. Oh, we lose all of that. But now it is time to reclaim our dignity. It's time for us to reclaim our power, our personal sovereignty. It's time to remember that we are the creators of our lives. And when we start creating from the higher frequency platforms of capable, confident, certain, happy, those frequencies create a completely different reality than shame, blame, guilt, fear. As a collective, we are moving up into the higher bandwidths. We are shedding the veil of forgetfulness, and we are starting to take our power back. And as we take our power back, we realize that we don't have to heal what's broken. We don't have to fix the old systems. We don't have to heal our bodies, because our bodies are not broken. There's nothing wrong with our bodies. Our bodies are simply reflections of our consciousness. What we do need to do is be able to focus on what it is that we want. We need to be able to focus on the well-beings that we are by nature. As source, we have access to everything that exists. The entire frequency scale is ours to choose from. Yes, we can choose from shame, blame, fear, doubt. We can choose those things, but we don't have to. When we start choosing from the higher frequency bandwidths, and we start creating with joy and passion and excitement and enthusiasm and curiosity and well-being, we start creating that for ourselves, and we start creating that for ourselves, and we start creating that for others as well. When we are shining our light bright, we are the lighthouse. When we are living, each and every one of us, when we are starting to live in well-being, the others who are still struggling can see an example of those who are living in well-being. We can't force anybody else into well-being, but we can be the light bringers. We can shine our light. We can stand in well-being. Hey, Eve, thanks for joining. We can stand in our own radiance. And when we do that, we shine our light, and we shine our light for all to see. And for those who are ready to stand in their own well-being and turn their lights back on and connect to their own radiance, they can see us, they can find us, and we can each help them to turn their light back on as well. So as we navigate this shift of consciousness, even though things seem so terrible on the outside, these systems, yes, they are broken, and they are starting to crumble. They are starting to fall apart. And people are worried that, oh my gosh, Social Security is going away. These systems are going away, going away. Yes, they are. And let them go. Because we are creating grand systems, much better systems, systems of equality, systems that include everyone, systems that don't exclude. Why? This is not a political statement either. This is a frequency statement. This is we are leaving the third dimension where people get excluded, where people are allowed to live in abject poverty. We are leaving that. As we move into these higher dimensions, we come together as humanity. We start working together. We start, instead of working from a platform of fear and judgment and ridicule and exclusion, we raise our frequency through that fourth dimension up into the higher dimensions. Once we hit that fifth dimension, all the other ones start to open up. And as those other dimensions open up, we have far more to choose from. More, better, grander, greater, happier things to choose from. When we're in that third dimensional bandwidth, we can only see what's right in front of us. We can only see the surface of things. And on the surface of things, it looks like chaos. But as we raise our frequencies, like going up in a hot air balloon, like when you're on the street in a crowded city, you're seeing the chaos, you're smelling the smells, you're bumping into people, you're trying to navigate through the crowds, and you can only see for a couple of blocks. But as you go up to the top of the buildings, you can look down on the chaos. Not as in a egotistical thing, but from a point of view, like you're not in the chaos anymore. You're above the chaos. You have risen above the chaos. And above the chaos, at the top of the skyscraper, you can see for miles and miles and miles. And if there's a traffic jam from up above, instead of sitting in the traffic jam, from up above, you can say, oh, there's a truck going sideways. It's stalled in the middle of the road, blocking all the lanes. There's the problem right there. And you can see why the traffic has stopped. You can see why there's some chaos. And this is what's happening as we raise our frequency. We can start to see the chaos. We are no longer part of the chaos, but we can see it. And we can see the truck in the road. We can see what's blocking the flow. We can see what's keeping everybody limited and stuck. So what's happening on this planet now? Hey, Kenzie. Hey, Marcy. So what's happening now is as we each individually break free from the herd, okay, and take our sovereignty back, we start to raise above the chaos, not from an egotistical standpoint, but from a point of view standpoint, like a vision standpoint. We can see better. We can see energy. We can see big patterns that we couldn't see before. We can see why there's the traffic jam. We can see why everybody is stuck. And from up there, we can see, hey, let's get a tow truck. Let's move the truck out of the way. Let's unblock the road so energy can move again. This is what's happening on our planet. So right now on our planet, it seems like we are divided in two factions. It looks like, at least from America, from the US standpoint, it looks like we have the Democrats versus the Republicans, the conservatives versus the liberals. But what's actually happening is we have a divide between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. The people that are still in fear in this bandwidth, they can't see beyond the fear because they haven't risen up. They are still at the street level. They are still in the crowded, the congestion, the crowd, the chaos on the street level. They don't have the broader perspective yet. And this, again, this is not a good or bad. This is not a political statement or an ego statement. This is a frequency statement. As we raise our frequency and go up higher, we can see broader perspectives. From the ones who are still in the chaos, they can't see what these people see. If you're watching this, you are up here. You are moving up the skyscraper. You are somewhere up above the crowd. Okay? It is easy. We can go up and down that elevator. We can go back down out into the street. We can do that, and it happens on this ascension journey. It's a little journey. We kind of go up a little bit and up, we fall back into that third dimension. We go into the fourth, move up into the fifth, whoop, back down. Because that third dimension is magnetic. It's an electromagnetic universe. So what we are looking at is not Democrats versus Republicans, left versus right. It's about what bandwidth are we operating from. The ones in the third dimension only see the third dimension. They're only looking at the surface. They're only seeing the fear. So from the fear, this fifth dimensional looks like a complete fantasy. It looks like it is something that is a conspiracy theory because it seems fantastical to them. It seems that walking without a mask is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. And it seems to these that are in that third dimension, they're doing what they need to do. They're doing what they believe they need to do to protect themselves and others. And there is nothing wrong with that. However, we are all, the entire planet is moving up into this fifth dimensional bandwidth. We are all moving up into our divinity, into our sovereignty, into our own well-being. We are moving out of the fear. We are moving out of the lack and limitation. We are moving out of the disease. In this fifth dimension, disease does not exist. That does not mean that your body never is out of balance. That is not what that means. It means that if something should arise in our body, if we get a pain, if we get an ache, if we get, lumps or bumps, or something happens, rashes, whatever happens, those things start happening less and less and less as we move up in frequency. But as we move up and those things happen, we don't automatically go to the what's wrong with me scenario. It reverses. When we move up in frequency and we start to recognize that our bodies are reflections of our consciousness, we start to look at what's going on in our body. And instead of freaking out about what's going on in our body, we simply ask the question, what is this reflecting? What do I need to look at in my energy field that I need to readjust? An imbalance in the body is the reflection of an imbalance in the energy field, in our consciousness, in our thought patterns. Every time we struggle with something, our bodies try to support us through that struggle. Our bodies reflect that struggle. If we struggle long enough, if we only struggle for 20 minutes on something, nothing's going to show up in our bodies. But if we've been struggling for something for 20 years, it's pretty likely we've got some chronic condition, right? It's just the way it is. The longer we struggle, the more it shows up. So we don't need to fix the body. There's nothing wrong with the body. We need to end the struggle. Whatever that struggle is, we need to make sure that we clear it out and we return ourselves to well-being. When we turn ourselves back to well-being, when we start to focus on the well-being at hand, the body then returns to well-being to match. So as we move up in frequency, it looks like chaos. It looks like stuff is falling apart. Let it go. We don't need to fix it. We don't need to fix the old systems. They're broken. They've been corrupt for a long time. It's like a corrupt database. Let them go and focus inside. Well-being comes from within. By each one of us raising our frequency and creating well-being for ourselves, that well-being then radiates outward into the collective consciousness, and it raises the collective consciousness. And all of the people around us who are ready to activate well-being for themselves, they will see our light shining. And they will be drawn to us who are standing in well-being, and they'll say, how did you get there? What do I need to do to get there? If this sounds like you, if you have been struggling with your body, if you need to know, how do I get there? How do I get to that space of well-being in my body? Please feel free to reach out to me. This is what I do. This is what I show my clients. I show my clients how to move up this frequency scale, how to clear the veil of amnesia and let go of all of those low frequency charges so that you can remember, so you can get up here into the fifth dimension where you remember who you are, where you remember the well-being that you are, when you remember that you are infinite consciousness, you are infinite well-being in a body. So when you can look at the infinite well-being instead of the body and start identifying with the well-being inside, when you identify with your consciousness rather than with your physicalness, your entire life flips on its head, because everything in that third dimension is backwards. Everything is upside down, inside out in that third dimension. When you step up into that fifth dimension, everything changes. Well-being is the order of the day, and your cells follow. So I hope that this was helpful to you today. We are in the midst of the greatest shift of consciousness ever attempted in the universe. And we are doing an amazing job. So don't be discouraged by what you're seeing out there. Soften your focus out there. Heighten your focus inside. This is where the well-being comes from, inside. And when you focus inside, you will start to turn your life all the way around so that you are living on a solid platform of well-being. And we create heaven on earth. It's the hell that's falling away. We are reclaiming our higher dimensional heaven on earth. So if you're ready to live heaven on earth in a body that reflects that, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me through my website, connectingyoutoyou.com. I am here on Facebook in my Facebook group, Soul Sourced Healing. Every Thursday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, I am here live in this group doing this Facebook Live. And let me just double check, see if anybody has any. Oh, hey, Lori, nice to see you. So anybody has questions, feel free to type them in. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm always happy to, hey, sending love to you too, Kinsey. Thank you. Sending love to everyone. Yes. So in the Facebook group, if you have any questions, please type them in at any time in the Facebook group. I'm always in there. I'm always happy to answer. If you're watching this and you're not part of the Facebook group, come on and join us, Soul Sourced Healing. And again, my website is connectingyoutoyou.com. Hey, Carol, nice to have you join us too. Thanks for watching, everyone. So hope that was helpful today. So until next week, create for yourselves a great week. Connect to the wisdom of your soul. It will never steer you wrong. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.